Hello everyone, this is Jessica Stern, the Executive Director of Outright Action International for This Way Out, and it is a real honor to be a part of this show. I want to wish you all a happy Pride season, and I want to start by introducing you to Outright if you're not familiar with us. We're a global LGBTIQ feminist human rights organization with staff and offices in 8 countries globally, 2 in Asia, 2 in the Caribbean, 2 in Europe, 1 in East Africa, and a variety of offices across the United States. And we work through 3 very simple but important methodologies. Advocacy, so we're the only LGBTIQ organization in the world to focus on UN headquarters. Second is research. Our research is consumed by over 1 billion people each year. And 3, movement resourcing, which means everything from trainings, grassroots LGBTIQ organizations to be stronger in the ways that they want to build up their stamina, to grant making. This year we'll make about $500,000 in grants to very small, very grassroots organizations that are under-resourced and on the front lines for our community globally. And if you haven't heard about us, please check us out at outrightinternational.org or follow us on social media. Our handle is @outrightinternational. So today I'm very excited to be reading from a special publication. There you can see it. Our Right to Love, a lesbian resource book produced in cooperation with the women of the National Gay Task Force. And it's a beautiful publication published in 1978, and you can see some of the very lovely 70s photos. And it was given to me by the women's human rights icon and longtime lesbian activist, Charlotte Bunch, when I became executive director of Outright. So I thought a walk down memory lane would be a beautiful way to contribute a reading. Just turning to the page, what I'll be reading is the foreword by none other than Rita Mae Brown. And you can see that beautiful Dorothy Hamill hair and the little cat that she's holding. So, without further ado, I'll start my reading. Lesbians as a group can be very confusing. There are lesbians whose politics are to the right of Genghis Khan. There are lesbians who make Maoists look moderate. There are lesbians who can only be described as dowdy dykes. There are lesbians who can't be described. They simply knock you out with their beauty. There are lesbians who love cats and would never be seen without one. There are lesbians who like dogs. There are lesbians who like men. And there are lesbians who barely know that men exist. There are Baptist lesbians, born again. There are Catholic lesbians who would never violate papal procedure regarding birth control. There are Jewish lesbians and Zen ones, Shinto, and all other religious possibilities. There are even lesbians who don't believe in any religion at all. There are poor lesbians and rich lesbians. There are dumb lesbians. Yes, I hate to admit it, but there are. And there are smart lesbians. We come in all colors, too. Lesbians are everywhere, even in the morgue. We die like anyone else. What lesbians have in common with one another, amid all our varieties, is that people who aren't lesbians think us odd, perhaps even queer. Certain persons, I won't name them, that would be cruel, tell us lesbianism is unnatural. Wrong. Nothing is unnatural, just untried. Other certain persons tell us that lesbians are sex maniacs. Unfortunately, this is not true. I speak from deep personal experience. People who tell us such things are the same people who tell us that crime doesn't pay. And look at Richard Nixon. Not only do certain persons muddy the waters about homosexuals today, they even tamper with history. For instance, have you heard the ridiculous rumor, sponsored by our public school system, that Michelangelo was heterosexual? Applesauce. Everyone knows he was gay. If Michelangelo had been straight, the Sistine Chapel would have been painted basic white with a roller. And then that terrible fib about Queen Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen, they call her. Try Divergent Queen. Or the scandal about Sappho flinging herself off a cliff into the sea because of love for some ferryboat man. If she cast herself into the waters, you can bet her lover was in the boat. And how about that gossip about J. Edgar Hoover? Do we really want to claim him? But you get the idea. Makes you wonder about democracies thumping their chests and declaring they tell the truth to their citizens. If they lie about sex, they'll lie about anything. Not only do they lie about sex, they make rules about it, and by extension about love. Do you know that in many states in this nation, oral sex, going down to you trashy readers, is illegal? Whether you're visiting the southern hemisphere with a member of the opposite sex, the same sex, or possibly a watermelon. The law's always been hard on fruits. The only time going down should be outlawed is when it refers to the stock market. But that's the whole thing in a nutshell, where it best belongs. The powers that be have you and me focusing on our private lives, and then we might not notice the larger issues, like the economy. We won't fight for systemic change. We'll keep fighting for piecemeal change. Maybe this concept is more easily understood if we shift the focus from sexual and cultural issues to a traditional material issue. You and I are paying higher and higher oil costs. Our discontent rests in the Middle East, where we are told the countries gouge us. However, this nation, the US, possesses the technology to use solar energy for heating purposes. That equipment won't be available to us until General Electric figures out a way to buy the sun. Got it? It's one thing if we're lied to by the power structure. It's another thing if we lie to one another. Lesbians just don't want to lie to you. That's really what this whole gay rights business is all about. How can we make common political cause with each other if we don't know the truth about each other? How can we be friends? Remember, a society that denies you your right to be yourself and to be with others is but a step away from denying you the rights that on the surface are obviously more political. If you try to tell me how to act and whom to love, and it doesn't sit right by me, there's no way we can make a revolution or even a batch of brownies. Maybe it's time America grows up and learns to value difference instead of trying to homogenize all of us like so much pasteurized milk. If the whole country can't get it together to let people be, at least you can. The articles in this book are people trying to tell you about their lives. What's astonishing is that these women are ready to write truthfully about themselves. In 1968, when we popped the gay rights movement into second gear, its public phase, by starting the Student Homophile League at Columbia University, I was just about the only organizer to use my real name. By 1971, a few other people were willing to be honest about their identity, but most lesbians refused to risk coming out even inside the feminist movement. Beyond the various political arenas, which offered cold comfort, people knew better than to tell the truth. Not only were women in the closet, they seemed to be vying for, quote-unquote, Miss Garment Bag 1971. Just 6 years later, with this publication, why are people taking chances and telling you who they are? Heightened political awareness is one reason. Also, strength of community draws people forward. No one is such a Pollyanna as to think she has nothing to fear by coming out. But at least today, there is a community. No one need emerge the way I did, totally alone. And that's a small but very real victory. Like all people for all centuries, we move in a changing web of time, circumstance, economic control, and natural upheaval. Any of those factors, individually or in combination with others, could influence us. Who is to say if these things have made our task of telling the truth lighter? For all that, I would still bet the authors in this anthology came forward because it's easier to tell the truth. Lies sap energy, plus when you tell one, you soon must tell another. These women are reclaiming their energy for themselves. No lies to oil social and political machinery that does not operate in our self-interest. No lies to placate psychological attitudes that are destructive not just to us, but to the concept of human rights and dignity. We tell the truth. You either like us as we are, or you don't like us at all. At least we will know where we stand. This book demonstrates not just how far lesbians have come, but how far America has moved on the issue of individual liberty. 5 years ago, this book could not have been published. 5 years ago, the truth was not welcome about us, about poverty, Watergate, racial prejudice, and a host of seemingly unrelated things which are not unrelated at all. Today, I write a foreword to a book containing articles by more than 40 women. Just a few years ago, I would have had to write the whole book myself. Think how exhilarated I am. Think of the time this saves me. If you will take some of your time and read what follows, wherever you fall in the sexual, philosophical spectrum, this book will intrigue you. It might even provoke you to examine your own life, your relationships to others, your relationship to yourself, perhaps even your relationship to the economy. Whatever your conclusions about your own life are, I hope that by reading this book, you will respect our right to love. This was Jessica Stern for This Way Out. Have a happy, safe, and political pride.